I think that there's often this fear when it comes to recognizing our shittiness, whatever badness might exist within us. There's a fear that if you admit the certain negative aspects of yourself, that therefore you are painting yourself in your entirety as a bad person. And again, sometimes, many times, what it is this fear of giving other people leverage. If you admit that X, Y, and Z is a negative part of you, is something that is a misbehavior, it's a shortcoming, a flaw. If you admit this, then people will hold their nose up at you, they'll lord it over you, they'll make you feel bad about it, and that happens. But again, I say, those people don't need to be in your life if they do that. But secondly, but for your own self, independent of everybody else, when you're not around other people, in your alone time, within your own mind, you gotta be able to recognize the things about yourself that aren't good, that aren't healthy, that perhaps I've known the sweetest, kindest people to still be self-absorbed at times, to still be self-centered at times, to still be rude at times, disrespectful, difficult, unstable, disharmonious, uncivil, whatever you can think of. The best kinds of people fall prey to this because they're human beings. We are human beings. And it's time that we stop treating each other in this competitive, inferior, superior way. And we just recognize that we're all trying to be our best. Recognize that we're all trying to be our best. The sad truth is that we're not. But that's my hope. My hope is that we all try to be our best. If we all were pursuing that, if that was our active objective, then we could have more confidence in each other, more faith in each other, that when we admit something, we know that we're admitting it because we're saying, look, this is an unacceptable part of me. And although I know it to be natural, I don't want it to have a say in my everyday behavior. I don't want it to have a say in any of my actions. And I just want to let you know that I'm trying my hardest to not allow this force within me that makes me do this negative thing. I don't want it to be. And in a sense, that is enough. Wanting it isn't enough because there's practical things that we need to be doing to adjust ourselves to make true, actual changes. So it's best, it's not enough to just say, let's say if you have massive impatience. If you just say, I don't want to be impatient, that's a start. And if you recognizing that you do have a lot of impatience within you, that's a major start. But then the second step is to begin to do things, practical things, that will truly have an effect on your impatience, that will increase your ability to be patient. And it's all the usual kinds of activities. It's all the healthy things that I always speak about. The sleep, the exercise, the healthy conversation, the eating right. These things contribute to a stable internal environment, and that helps your patience. But also, that's the matter over mind. But there's also a lot of mind over matter. And the mind over matter is the active recognition, the active auditing of your behavior, which is exhausting. I admit, it's a tiresome thing. It's easier said than done. I don't deny that at all. To really apply your mental energy to making drastic behavioral changes is way easier said than done, especially when you have people in your life that seem to constantly collide with you in these conflicting ways. It's similar to if you're trying to start to eat better and you're trying to have let's say a cleaner diet, so to speak, and the people in your household are still eating junk and they're still encouraging you to eat junk implicitly or just overtly. That is difficult as hell. I can't be mad at you when you constantly fail at eating healthy because the people around you are constantly pulling you back to the unhealthy darkness. That's a thing that I've come across many of times when I've talked to people about changing their diet. The people in their world, the people that orbit them, have no interest in changing their diet, and so it makes it very, very hard for them. That's understandable. That's understandable. I get it. But my point is that despite the difficulty, one person, and I'm not mad at you for this person who said this. A couple of people suggested this when I do the videos. When I like to call it me moving to music. I think it's insulting to actual dancers to say that I'm fucking dancing, but it's me really moving to music. And some people suggested that, oh, you're so happy, you're so carefree, and things synonymous to that. It's like, nope, that's not quite it. I'm moving to music despite this world stressing me the hell out, despite death being on my mind. Not death in the way that you would probably quickly presume, like, oh, you're thinking about. No, I'm thinking about just the fact that my own mortality, human mortality in and of itself, to me is a freaky thing, and it's a real thing, something that we tend to put on the back burner of our mind. I don't think that's healthy at all. I think that if we recognize death more often, we would behave drastically differently. But my point is that I move to music and I find joy despite the tragedy of life, despite the intrinsic suffering that exists in this world. It's despite it. It's not because I'm so happy necessarily. And so I'm saying, despite the difficulty, despite how hard it is still possible to continually get up and continually make strides to be the person that you would like to become, to see yourself for who you are. I think it is only in my view, we all hold different things to be valuable. This is no doubt. But I do, and I mean, somebody could debate me on this. I do believe certain things to be objectively valuable to a human being, whether or not we admit it. For instance, the person can act like, you can be rich as hell and have all the fakeness around you, and you can act like you don't mind the fake people in your life and that you just love the status and whoever and the people in your realm because they are on the same plane as you status wise, and you feel like you've made it, and this is something that you convince yourself is what you want. But I think factually human beings crave authenticity. We crave the real. There's that experiment that's been suggested to people at times, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the generic statistic of it. But there was that it was proposed to people that if you could get into this chamber of sorts, and it mimic reality, and it could be your perfect reality, and you wouldn't know, you wouldn't even know. You would get into this machine, and this machine would replicate reality perfectly, and you'd never know, and you could have everything you ever wanted, be whoever you wanted. If I'm not mistaken, the majority of people don't want that. That was the answer. That was the conclusion. Most people don't want fakeness. And it's interesting, like why don't you want the fakeness? There's something in us that just wants reality. And we want reality from other people too. We want your true self, whatever that true self may be. And I think because we crave consistency, we crave predictability perhaps. And that's fine. Like, there's nothing necessarily wrong with a predictable life in the everyday. Obviously you want surprises here. You want your frills there. We want excitement. We want shock and stuff. But I mean, as far as when it comes to our intimacy and our harmony with each other, it seems evident that we crave authenticity, even if we are surrounded by inauthenticity, insincerity. As I said before, we human beings have this great ability to become desensitized to bullshit, to nonsense, if we in our everyday life are constantly surrounded by people who are just, let's say that toxic. I think, toxic may be an overused word, but I feel like it's an appropriate word. If we're surrounded by toxicity on a daily basis, we just deal with it eventually, most people. And even if that dealing with it means self-destruction, you still try to deal with it. Because it's sometimes, a lot of times it just seems hopeless. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to change everybody around you? And then there's absolutely if I can't beat them, join them kind of mentality. Like, that happens to me every week on a weekly basis. My soul is challenged by going to this grocery store, H-E-B in Houston. And it's a particular, I don't know if they're all like this, but the particular one I go to, people are just extremely rude, extremely inconsiderate, no environmental awareness. Everybody is just colliding and stomping around and is very, very self-absorbed. And it's chaos, and it's ridiculous. And they're just essentially rude. And I used to take it very personally, but I have to be honest in my observation and see that they do it with each other. It's just people are desensitized to it. They don't care. Although at least outwardly, it doesn't seem as though they care. But my point is that a lot of times I'm just like, I want to join in. Y'all want to be rude? I'll be rude too in this bitch. Y'all want to be rude? Y'all want to be inconsiderate? Y'all want to block people and do all this? Let me get in on it. But then I have to snap myself out of it and tell myself, man, fuck that. Don't become them. That's just weak. That's what they all do. That's the easiest fucking thing to do. It's just to be just like them. To be rude just like them. Inconsiderate, lacking in awareness just like them. That's so easy and so lazy. And I'm already lazy enough naturally. I'm already cowardly and weak enough now. Like, I don't need to, Dare to be loving. Dare to be considerate. Dare to do the difficult thing. Our time is short in this world. Our time is uncertain. And if I do have the opportunity and the good fortune to have any kind of awareness before I die, it'll be comforting for me to know that I tried my best. Obviously, no matter what you do, sometimes your death can be such a spontaneous thing, and it doesn't matter in a sense. And to the people who feel that nothing matters because we'll eventually die, I will say I disagree with that for one major reason. And that's because what you're doing is you're playing fortune teller. You're playing future observer. You're not being in the now. The now is the reality. The ability to peer into the future or imagine the future and predict the future, that's an ability, that is something our minds are doing imaginatively. But when you clear your thoughts, and this is why meditation is such a beautiful thing, and sitting in silence is such a beautiful thing, when you clear your thoughts, you see that the right now is all that exists. That's what exists. Right now. Right now, that's your reality. And because right now matters to us, because right now pain matters to you, joy matters to you, fulfillment matters to you, satisfaction matters to you, dissatisfaction matters to you. Right now, you can look into the future and predict whether or not these things are going to be in your world. But right now is what we're dealing with. And so whatever the future holds, right now is still here. Every second, every moment. And so what I care about is right now. Not that, and then people love to misconstrue that and say, yes, I get it. Right now matters, so don't plan for the future. Don't do that which will acquire you security in the future. No, not saying that, man. It's a balance. It's absolutely a balance. But oftentimes what we do as humans in this workaday world is all we do is fixate on the future only. The right now is inconsequential to us. We don't even know. I bet that probably doesn't make sense to a lot of people, me talking about right now. The timer to me is very important. Put your timer on. Use your phone. Put your phone on silent. Put your timer on for 20 minutes. and just sit in silence for 20 minutes and bask in the nothingness. Notice how restless you become, like a spoiled child. Notice how boredom seems to give you a sting, and how excruciating it might be for you. That's not good. You know why sometimes we're too lazy to pick something up? That's because we lack a kind of strength and energy in our back or in our body, in our legs or whatever. When you feel fully energized, bending down to pick something up feels like nothing. When you feel fully equipped, it feels like nothing. And when you feel fully equipped in other ways, to sit in silence feels like nothing. And I think that means there's a stability with you. And you could take heed in that. That means that you found a certain peace that a lot of people haven't. If you can literally just sit in silence and for 20 minutes with only your thoughts and be still, I think that speaks to a stability within you. And if you can't, if it's extremely difficult, then I think that speaks to an instability within you. It's nice to every now and then break the momentum, because we're just like, what am I gonna do? This, that. And a part of that, this, that is why we can't even fucking have a conversation with each other and get to really truly know each other. And it's why we can't even really get to truly know ourselves. It's not just about the stability part, because I'm just talking, but it's about getting to know yourself as well. Thoughts start to sprout that weren't sprouting before. Feelings start to come up that didn't come up before. You start to think things and reflect upon things that you should have been for quite some time. And now they rise to the surface. And even if that doesn't happen, what I find is that at the very least, if you successfully steep yourself in the mundane, as I call it, or you do that for 20 minutes and you sit in silence and you survive it, which is, again, that speaks to a weakness within us that we can't do it. But that's why you do it, to strengthen yourself. If you come out on the other end and you successfully do it, I find that the brain tends to reboot. And a lot of what you thought you wanted, you don't want. You thought you wanted to do this. You thought you wanted to buy this. You thought you wanted to go here. You thought you wanted to do that. And you thought you wanted to do these things because you needed some kind of gratification. You thought you needed some kind of excitement. But you find that, oh shit, I didn't need any of that. I'm good. And that's a gift. That's a beautiful fucking thing, man. Our insatiable appetites are nothing to be proud of, in my view, and in many other people's view. But I think peace is underrated. I think simplicity is underrated. And I think harmony is underrated. But, you know, alright. I'm going to close my eyes because it helps me think and talk. Because it's very difficult to make these videos. And so it helps me be in tune with my thoughts. I get distracted by seeing things. So, alright guys. Peace out.